For this chapter 5, remember all of our work here is in degrees. When we start chapter 6, we will be using radians. We will basically be doing chapter 5 all over again, but now in radians when we start chapter 6. But let's finish up. This is going to be our last lesson for chapter 5. It's lesson 4. We will be solving right triangles. You did this last year in your geometry course. So when we're doing these problems, you should always use as much of the given information as possible. Because if you use a calculated answer, chances are if you've made a calculation error or maybe it's a rounded answer, it may mess up the rest of your answers. And I'll talk about this as we see it. When we solve right triangles, what we're doing here is finding every missing piece. So I need to find a number for every side and every angle in my triangle. So in my first example, I've been given the measurement of angle A. It's 31 degrees and 40 minutes. And I've also been given one of my side lengths. And I've labeled this as lowercase a. Now, I need to find the measure of angle B. I need to find the side length of B and the side length of C. And in order to do this, I'm going to be using some trig functions. However, the first thing I'm going to calculate is the measurement of angle B, because that's going to be the easiest thing I have to do in this triangle. Now, remember that the three angles of a triangle add up to be 180 degrees. You also should have also learned in geometry that the two angles that are not the right angle, the two acute angles, they're complementary. So I really don't need to add 90 plus 31 degrees, 40 minutes, add that and subtract from 180. All I really need to do is take angle A and subtract it from 90 degrees because they're complements. So again, I'm going to put this up so I can have something to subtract from. So 90 degrees, and then I'm going to put 0 minutes here because I need to have something to subtract those 40 minutes from. Now, back in 5.1, we learned that 60 minutes was also equivalent to 1 degree. So when I go to subtract this, I need to borrow. I need to take 1 degree out of my 90 so I can borrow. But instead of putting it like a 10, I'm going to make this 60 minutes. So now I'm borrowing 1 degree, and I'm going to make it 60 minutes. So now when I borrow or subtract 60 minutes minus 40 minutes, I now have 20 minutes. And then I just do 89 minus 31. So the measure of angle B is 58 degrees and 20 minutes. Now I need to use the trig functions to find the side lengths B and C. Now again, instead of using my newly created angle B, I'm going back to my given. Because what if I made a mistake subtracting? What if I thought it was supposed to have been 50 degrees and 20 minutes? Or I maybe even forgot about the minutes. Then that would mess up my answers for B and C. So this is why you should always go back to the given to find the other missing pieces. So what I'm going to do is I've been given an A, angle A. In relation to A, this lowercase a is this opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? In relation to A, it's opposite, and I'm going to label that. So in relation to A, I'm really looking for hypotenuse, and I'm also looking for the adjacent. And I'm going to do 2 different trig functions using angle A. So the first one I'm going to do to find lowercase b is I'm going to do tangent, because tangent of angle A is opposite over adjacent, and the side that's opposite angle A is the 35.59. Over here for tangent, I'm going to put in the angle measure 31 degrees, 40 minutes, divided by B, which is my adjacent. So I'm setting it up as opposite over adjacent. Now I have to solve for B. Now I could either treat it as a proportion and cross multiply and divide here. Just know that when I do this, I'm really multiplying both sides by B. So now I have tangent 31 degrees, 40 minutes, B equals 35.9. To solve for B, I divide both sides by tangent 31 degrees, 40 minutes. And when I do that, here's how I'll key at my calculator. So I'm going to do 35, because this cancels, 35.9 divided by tangent 31 plus, and if you have the option of putting it as a fraction, you would key it in as 40 over 60. If not, you're doing 40 divided by 60, close parentheses, and once you do this, this is B. So I'm going to round it to the tenths place because that's what was initially given to me as a side length. So B is approximately equal to 58.2 kilometers. I now need to do the same thing for C, but this time I'm looking for the hypotenuse. So I have to figure out which trig function will use opposite and hypotenuse, and that's going to be sine. So now I'm going to do sine of A, and I know sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So now I'm going to fill in my numbers. So sine of 31 degrees, 40 minutes, should be a degree, that should be a minute sine, equals, and again I have opposite, but I don't know the hypotenuse, that's my letter C. Now I need to solve this equation. So I would multiply both sides by C to get it out of the denominator. And now I have sine of 31 degrees, 40 minutes, C equals 35.9. Divide both sides by sine, 31 degrees, 40 minutes. And once I do that, C is approximately equal to 68.4 kilometers. And that's how you find the additional 3 missing pieces. Yes?
If you had the A and B, would it be possible to use Pythagorean to find the C?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, that would be a good way to check it. However, if you're given A and B, that's how you're going to find C. But if you've just calculated B, chances are, what if you made a mistake in finding B?
Yeah.
And then now you're using Pythagorean theorem with that calculated answer to find C, and it would mess it up.
Yeah.
So, but that would be a good way to check your answer, is to do Pythagorean theorem. Also, remember to go back, add up the 3 angles. They should also add to be 180. So these are ways that you can check your answers if you have time. Is this making sense? We did this in geometry. Let's try another one. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do 5 examples of solving these. There's nothing else new to the lesson. Again, it's a review of geometry. So again, my given information here, when I labeled my triangle, is in red. This time I don't have minutes. I actually have decimal degrees. So for this one, all I need to do is 90, and I'm going to put 0.0 so I have something to subtract from, minus 47.8, subtract, and I get 42.2 degrees. So that's the measure of angle Y. You'll just subtract it from 90. Again, if you wanted to double check it, you could add those 3, the X, Y, and Z, and it should add up to be 180. If it doesn't, something's gone wrong. Now I need to find X and Y. And again, I'm going to resort back to my given. My given was angle X. So I'm going to label my sides in relation to the given angle. So this side that's opposite is over here, the little x. Adjacent to it is the y. And the hypotenuse was my given. So now I'm going to do a trig function, two different ones, to find x and y. Notice I have hypotenuse as a given. So for the first one I'm going to look for is lowercase x, and I'm going to do sine. So sine of 47.8 is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. This time, to solve, I'm just going to multiply both sides by 89.6 to get that to cancel. And on my calculator, I'm going to do 89.6 times the sine of 47.8. And this is going to give me x is approximately equal to 66.4 centimeters. I'm going to round to whatever decimal place was given to me in the original problem. So notice my given side here had a tenths place, so that's what I'm going to round my answers to. On the test, it will specify. You're going to round. I know last week we talked about truncating, but on the test, you're going to be rounding. To find lowercase y, or the side that's adjacent to my given angle, I'm going to do cosine this time. 47.8. I know cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And here, to solve, multiply both sides by this 89.6. So I'm going to do 89.6 times cosine of 47.8. And y is approximately equal to 60.2 centimeters. And again, I used my given information in both of my trig functions. I could have used what I found for x, but again, it was an approximate value. I rounded it. So this is why I resort back to my given. These are exact. Yes. Are you in degrees? All right, number 3. Again, we need to find two sides, lowercase a and b, and also angle A this time. So notice this time my angle's, and actually it's a whole number. So, or it's an integer, so I just have to do 90 minus 46. And it's 44. Now, I could do all my trig functions based on angle A, but what if I was bad at subtracting? And what if I said, wait, 90 minus 46 is 45, then that's going to mess up all my other answers if I use the wrong answer. So this is why I like to use what's given just in case I made a calculation error. So again, I'm going to label my sides based on my given angle. And again, my given angle was the 46. So this lowercase b is opposite. The a is adjacent. And the c is the hypotenuse. So now I'm going to figure out which trig functions I can do. And again, I'm going to do sine and cosine. So sine of 46. And that uses opposite and hypotenuse. So my opposite is b. My hypotenuse is 29.7. And now I'll multiply both sides by 29.7 to get what lowercase b is. So b is approximately equal to 21.4 meters. Now, yes?
Wait, so why do you have to find 44 in the first place?
Because you have to fill in every single missing angle.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I thought you were just wanted us to solve
The sides?
A, B, and C, yeah.
Yeah. So whenever it says to solve the right triangle, you're looking for every missing piece. All right, so now I also need to find what A is. So again, I'm using 46 and I'm using the hypotenuse. So this time I'm going to do cosine. So cosine 46 is equal to A over 29.7. Again, I need to multiply both sides by 29.7 to get that out of the denominator and isolate A. And then I'm left with A is approximately equal to 20.6 meters. And again, double check. You can re-add your three angles. They need to add to 180. You can also do Pythagorean theorem to make sure that A squared plus B squared does equal C squared. Good. Now we're going to do a little bit different. I'm going to give you two side lengths and no angles. Okay, so again, my given information is labeled in red. So this time I actually have to do Pythagorean theorem to find C squared, or to find C. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 958 squared plus 489 squared equals C squared. So 958 times 958 or squared is 917764. And then 489 squared, 239,121. I'm going to add them and then square root them. When I add them, 1156885. That's C squared. To find C, square root it. Let's see. 1156885. And this is going to give me 1075.5858. Again, my original answers were integers, they were whole numbers, so I'm going to round this to a whole number, so 1076. That's C. Now, I still need to go back and find angle A and angle B. Remember when we try to find angles, this is where we're going to hit the -1 or the inverse. So, again, I'm going to use my given. I'm not going to use this newly calculated C. I'm going to use my 958 and my 489. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for the measure of angle A. And because I'm using these two sides in relation to A, this is opposite and this is adjacent. So I know that the trig function that uses opposite and adjacent is tangent. So I'm going to be doing the tangent of A is equal to opposite over adjacent. But whenever we're looking to find an angle measure, this is where we're going to hit the second button, then the tan, and then it'll open up tangent to the -1, showing that it's an inverse. Put in the opposite side, which is going to be 958, and then the adjacent side. So you're going to do second tangent, 958 divided by 489, and you're going to find that A is approximately equal to, we're going to round it to the nearest degree, 63 degrees. Now to find B, at this point, if I'm confident in my answer, I can just do 90 minus 63 and get 27. However, if you want to do another trig function, now we're going to talk about angle B, and then now this label here is now opposite when we're talking B, and this is adjacent. So now tangent for angle B, again, is opposite over adjacent. So we're going to do second, so it opens up tangent -1, and now for that I put 489 divided by 958. Once I do that, the measure of angle B is about 27 degrees. And you can double check it by adding it to that 63 and making sure it equals 90 degrees. One more example. We're going to go back to being given an angle and a side. Everybody good? Let's try more. So again, here is my triangle. Again, if I want to find the measure of angle B, all I need to do is take what A is, subtract it from 90, and I find out that it's 29 degrees. Now, again, to find A and C, I'm using my original given angle. So in relation to the original given angle, which is A, this side that's across from it is the opposite, and the C is the hypotenuse. The given was adjacent. So I'm looking for the trig function that has adjacent and opposite to find A, and adjacent and hypotenuse to find C. So to find A, I'm going to be doing tangent of 61 because that will use opposite and adjacent. So A over 39.2. I'm going to multiply both sides by the 39.2. And then A is approximately, after you multiply those two, equal to 70.7 centimeters. Again, I'm not going to use this newly calculated A. I'm going back and I'm using the 61 and the 39.2, my given. So to find side C, which is the hypotenuse, I'm going to be doing cosine. Cosine 61, adjacent over hypotenuse. And now I'll solve for C. I'm going to multiply both sides by C to get it out of the bottom. So cosine 61 times C is equal to 39.2. Divide both sides by cosine 61. And I end up with C approximately equal to 80.9 centimeters. And that's how we will solve an entire right triangle. You look for every missing piece. So you should end up being able to label all three angles and all three sides using our trig. So for tonight's homework, you actually only have 5 problems. Again, I have already posted a test review. It is not on your to-do list. It is in the Chapter 5 module. It is quite a lot of problems, so I suggest you start working on it after you do this. I may decide to collect it. I'm not sure at this moment if I will. You do have a mock quiz tomorrow. You will be working on that in class. At the end of class, we will begin going over it. And then on Wednesday, you can ask me any last-minute questions you have. And your test is Thursday. Make sure your calculator is charged and ready to go, and that you don't forget it at home on the charger. So remember to charge it and then get it in your backpack. Any questions?